What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Hot Seat. I'm your host, Matt Diggs. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some award winners for MLB. We got the MVPs, the ROYs, the managers. Then we'll take a look at the Hall of Fame. I know Bonds and Clemens didn't get in. This was their last chance on the ballot. So we'll talk a little bit about that, see what side we agree with. I'll break it down on my perspective on why I think that Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame and Clemens, but that's a big debate and topic. We'll get into David Ortiz making it. Congrats to him. Always love watching him play. Changed the DH role forever. Probably one of the best DHs of all time, or arguably is. He had an amazing career. We'll talk about that. Love watching him kill the Yankees. But we'll just jump right into it to start today's episode. So we'll talk about the MVPs first. First up, we have Shohei Ohtani, the two-headed monster, the pitcher, the outfielder. Guy could do it all. Guy could mash. Guy could pitch. Overall, he's a 5-tool player. I didn't think he was going to be anything coming up just because he was injury prone. I know he was struggling doing both. He was always getting hurt as a pitcher. But the dude's proven himself, especially with that struggling Angels team, trot out for the year, Rendon out. It was very hard for them this year, and I know they're trying to build around those guys, and they need them all to be healthy. But Ohtani is a great player. He really proved himself this year being a two-time player, pitching and batting. So his batting stats for the year were 257, which is phenomenal for a guy who does both. 46 home runs and 100 RBIs. That's very, very hard to do and unrealistic for a guy to pitch and hit like that. That's just absurd. But listen, the guy could do it. He's not from here. He's got a lot of skill. He's probably a 10 out of 10 player. That's a guy you build a franchise around. So kudos to him for giving that Angels, team a little boost. He's what they needed. And now we'll take a look at the NL. My boy Bryce, who I love talking about because we did an episode on this prior, like a couple months ago. You guys could go check the channel and look it out. I called that Harper was going to win NL MVP. I know he got snubbed. I know his first season in Philly wasn't that good, what we all expected, but I knew he was going to bounce back. I could tell Bryce because I've been watching him for so long. His swing was back. I knew this year was his year to win MVP. I've said it to everybody I know. I've said it on the podcast. I literally was pulling for Bryce all year. When he didn't make the All-Star game, I kind of was a little upset with that. But then second half was amazing. His stat line was he batted 309, 35 home runs, and 84 RBIs. A big step up from last year's COVID season. And Bryce Harper really got his money's worth in his contract. The Phillies did too. They took a guy. He's playing perfect in right field, by the way. He's adjusted to that perfectly. His batting 3 or 4 in the lineup, which is where he belongs. The Phillies really got a guy there. And they put the money up and the years up. So he's the face of the franchise for years to come. So that was awesome. I'm happy for my boy Bryce. And I expect more for 2022. I think he will be an all-star again. And that's all I got to say on the MVPs. Cy Young race, we have Robbie Ray, who won, who pitches for the Blue Jays. In that tough division, I'm shocked that he came out on top. But listen, the dude proved himself. I think it's his first year with the club. Put up 13-7, 2.84 ERA. I haven't heard much of Robbie Ray prior to the season, but I think he came from the Diamondbacks. But he was really good this year, had a breakout season. Really led that rotation with Barrios and Rue. He really carried it, held his own in that tough division. So kudos to Robbie Ray. Then let's take a look at the NL. We got Corbin Burns. Never really heard of this guy until this year and last year. But the Brewers always somehow mess up in the playoffs. They're a team that falls short always. I do think this guy put up a solid. He won Cy Young. He went 11-5 with a 2.43 ERA. That's always great in the NL, especially since I think the NL is harder to play in than the AL, but that's just my opinion, especially in that Central with the Cardinals Cubs. Burns did an outstanding job this year. I think he held his own in that Brewers rotation. I know he's their ace, and I believe he was an all-star. Just got to check that, but kudos to him. He had an outstanding year, and he deserved that Cy Young, especially with that record in another tough division, the Central, because it always comes down to the wire, so that was good. Let's take a look at the Rookie of the Years. For this year, we have Randy Arozarena. This is his second year in the league. He performed outstanding in the World Series. He was amazing. I know he played some right field for them. They really expected some stuff out of him, and he provided in the World Series in his rookie year in that COVID season. he stepped up to the plate. And this year, his first full year, he did not mess up. He performed, he entertained, and that Rays team, they don't have the best fan base, but he proved every night that he belonged there, putting up a 274 batting average, 20 home runs, and 69 RBIs. Again, in that tough division. That division's probably the toughest in baseball alone, with the Yankees, Blue Jays, Red Sox, all those guys. And this year, Rosarina stood out as probably the best right fielder in that division. Over Judge, over all these guys. He was the best right fielder. That's what I say. But I think so. The numbers prove it. Stats don't lie, as they always say. Now we'll jump to the NL. We have Jonathan India from the Cincinnati Reds. He's a very versatile player. I know he plays some second base, some short. This guy's the future of their team. I know they got Castellanos and Eduardo Suarez and Votto, but this is their guy right now. This guy's got a lot of attention. He's young. He's quick. He's very hot on the bat. Now, him and Rosarina put up the same kind of stat line. India's stat line was 269 batting average, 21 home runs, and 69 RBIs. Exactly the same, a little bit similar, Batting average was there. But again, India held his own in that Reds team that was very, very good, but they're always off the Reds. They start hot, they go down, then they go hot again. It's very streaky. But that Central Division in the NL is very tough, but India came out on top. I do think he's going to be their everyday shortstop going forward. I think that he's a solid centerpiece there for the young guys, and I know the Reds are trying to rebuild, but he's that solid piece right there. He's going to be the face of the franchise. I do think he's an all-star next year and have a great career, Jonathan India. For managers, we got Kevin Cash. He deserves it. Probably one of the best managers in the game for this long. The Rays came up short in the playoffs, but you know what? That happens, especially since the Rays are a young team. They can learn off this. Kevin Cash is one of the best managers. He's been with that team for a long time. And his record this year was 162. 100 wins is amazing for that team, that organization. And Kevin Cash is a baseball guy. You could tell how he manages games, how he pulls his pitchers, how he changes his lineup. He really helps the Rays a lot, and he deserves this MVP for manager. Sorry, I messed up there. But he 100% deserves it. And another guy, let's take a look at the NL. This guy is undoubtedly the best manager, or was the best manager last year, because he led this Giants team to 107-55. 107 wins. That's absurd for the San Francisco Giants team, who was projected to be last in their division in the NL West. Now, Gabe Kapler didn't have a good career in Philly. He shit the bed there. But you know what? He really improved himself with this Giants team. I know they acquired Longoria, Kevin Gausman, who's now gone. But that Giants team really impressed a lot of people. They improved all aspects of the diamond. I know Crawford had a breakout year. That Giants team got turned around by Kepler and the boys. The Giants are doing something good in the Bay. That's always awesome to see. And I think Kepler's going to be their guy going forward. We'll see what happens next year. I don't think the Giants are going to have a good year like that, but who knows? We'll see what goes on. That Giant team is young, hot, and they just got Chris Bryant at the deadline too. Let's not forget. They were trying to go for it all. So will they keep Bryant? We don't know. I hope he comes to the Mets, but we'll see what happens. But Kepler's got a good team, and they got a good leader to put them in the right direction. So now we're done with those awards for this year. Let's take a look at the Hall of Fame. We have Ortiz, David Ortiz, Big Papi. Whoops, getting a phone call. Now we got to talk about David Ortiz, Big Papi. David Ortiz is probably one of the best DHs of all time. You could argue that to anybody. His stat line is ridiculous. 541 home runs, a 286 batting average all time, 1,768 RBIs, 2,472 hits. He's 100% a first ballot Hall of Famer, playing 20 seasons, having won 3 World Series rings, 10-time All-Star, 7-time Silver Slugger, all in the Red Sox, by the way. He had a 20 career season. He played his beginning 3 years in Minnesota, didn't do well there. Came to the Red Sox for 17, I believe. Absolutely crushed it, and he absolutely deserves to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Ortiz is probably one of the best Dominican players all around. I've loved watching him since I was young. Growing up, I've watched him kill the Yankees. He's been around for a long time. He's a very positive face for MLB. He was a caring guy, locker room guy. Ortiz 100% deserved first ballot. This dude was amazing. Kudos to him. Congrats, Big Papi, on an awesome career. You deserve to be in Cooperstown, especially first ballot. He joins a few list of people who could do that. And he had 77%, which is awesome because everyone else on that team didn't make it. So kudos to Big Papi. Congrats, man. Now we'll talk about the heavy hitter of this Hall of Fame debate, Bonds and Clemens. Now, Bonds and Clemens ran out of time and will never be in the Hall of Fame. But they have 2 to 3 months to figure out. I believe some with the writers, they could still get in somehow. But legitimately, they're off the ballot, so they're not going to do it anymore. Now, Clemens put out a statement saying he never played to be a Hall of Famer. He's okay with it. He's ready to move on. And Bonds hasn't commented on it yet. I mean, listen, Barry Bonds is one of the best hitters of all time. You could argue the PEDs, but he never tested positive for them. It was just an assumption. But he's the most controversial player when it comes to the Hall of Fame talk, the MLB talk. Talking about PEDs in general, the first guy you bring up is Barry Bonds. And he leads the MLB with the most career home runs by any player with 762. Well, let's be real here. Most of them were juice balls and shouldn't even count. But I do think that even if you take away those, his performance as a player when he was on the Pirates or before the PEDs, he was a great player overall. You can't take that away from the guy. I think he should have made it, especially since this is his last time on the ballot. And he does, in fact, have other achievements in his career besides the home runs. But regardless of that, you take that all away, and he's still a great player. He still finishes his career with Hall of Fame numbers. Bonds was a 5-2 player overall with the Pirates and the Giants, and he turned the Giants franchise around, by the way. He's known for hitting the ball in Covey Cove, the splash ball. All of that was because of Barry Bonds. He took that Giants team and turned it around, and all the qualifications he has. He has everything to be in the Hall of Fame. But as a player, many people did like him, and this year his voting went up to 66%. That's the most he had on the ballot. Many players have been vocal and active on this. They think Bonds should be in. For Christ's sake, Pete Rose isn't even in it, and the dude's our all-time hit leader just because he gambled on a game. I think the writers got to do a better job with this. Bonds 100% deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He is one of probably the best players. You could argue the juice thing again, but take that away and he's still a good player. I do think Bonds deserves it. He lived up to his name, so you can't take that away from him. Let me guys know what you think about that in the comments. Personally, I think he should be in there. We have 2 months to see. Well, no. Clemens, I mean, not so much. Clemens, dirty past. I remember the game where he threw the bat at Piazza. His actions, the way he carried himself as a player, he was a little cocky. I don't think that is Hall of Fame ready, but his numbers didn't lie. He was a great pitcher all around. I know Clemens played for the Red Sox and a couple other teams, but known for being on the Red Sox and known for being that rocket arm. He's known as the Rocket. I don't think he's okay with it. I think he just said that to blow off the media and all that stuff. But, Clemens, I don't really have a say on him. I don't really care for him. But let me just take a look at his numbers really quick. I don't look into him that much because he's always been on and off about it. But let's just see what we got. So we got a 6'4" righty. He was drafted by the Mets in the 12th round. I did know that. That's pretty cool. His career, he was 354 wins, 184 losses, ERA of 3.12. He started 709 games, and his WAR was 139.2. So he had an overall amazing career, I would say. His stats look good. The Rocket, as he's known now, is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11-time All-Star, playing his seasons in Boston, Toronto, Yankees, and Houston, finishing his career with the Yankees. 24-year career, solid pitcher. A great pitcher after looking at this record. He belongs in the Hall of Fame too, you could say. But again, these guys are the most controversial and debatable people. It's hard to say what the writers are thinking because they're the ones that get to say on the ballot. A lot of players are very vocal about it and think that these guys should be in there. And listen, the players should have a say. They're playing the game. They're playing for their chance to make it to the Hall of Fame. I do think the players deserve a say in this. And if the MLB writers and the people who are doing this ballot, they should listen to the players because they're the ones playing the game. And that's my take on that Hall of Fame thing. So now let's jump to the NFL playoffs. I was wrong about the Packers. I know. I thought they were going to go all the way. They screwed me up, Aaron Rodgers. I counted on you. You failed me, man. I was 100% wrong on that. My next hope is that the Rams take it all. As a Browns fan, I love OBJ. Loved him in Cleveland. I knew Baker was the problem. A lot of Browns fans knew that. And I think he deserves a ring, Odell. 100% deserves a ring. Great player. Top 5 wide receiver still. You could say whatever you want. The dude's got skill, passion, drive. And I hate the Bengals because they're in our division. So I do want the Rams to go all the way. And I don't want to see them win anything Bengals. But I do think Odell's a solid player. He 100% deserves a ring. And that's my take on the NFL. Now, the NBA has just released their all-star starters. And we all knew this was going to happen because we all know every year LeBron James, best player, is a captain, along with Kevin Durant is a captain. But Durant's hurt right now and said he's not going to the game. So he's going to be out. We'll see who takes his spot. I think it's Trae Young, but we'll see. And now it's Team LeBron versus Team Durant. So these are the starters for the East. You have Kevin Durant from the Nets. Giannis, who I think is going to win MVP again this year just because he's amazing. I know Jokic won last year, but Giannis is having a great year. Joel Embiid from the Sixers. Trae Young for the Hawks. Oh, so someone else is going to replace KD. I was wrong. And DeMar DeRozan. That guy, very good. I'm happy the Bulls got him. I know he was supposed to come to New York and be a Knick. We screwed that up, but listen, kill it in Chicago. I know he got paired up with Lonzo. He's going to be an all-star starter, so congrats to him. Now we take it to the West Coast. LeBron James, obviously he's going to be the captain. It's LeBron. Jokic with the Nuggets, he's got his starting thing. Andrew Wiggins, this surprised me because I haven't really heard of Wiggins like the last couple of years. He had a falling out. I know he was on the Timberwolves. It wasn't really good. Having an outstanding year with the Warriors. I think he's averaging like 24 points a game or something crazy like that. Undoubtedly, we have Steph Curry. I think he's the best player in basketball, no matter what. In the NBA, game on the line, 5 seconds. I want Steph Curry with the ball. Steph Curry's probably the greatest shooter of all time. I think he is. Steph Curry's going to start in that game 100%. The guy's amazing at everything he does. A lot of skill. But he puts in the work, too. You could see that in this game. Then we have Ja Morant from the Grizzlies. That guy really turned the Grizzlies around. I know the Grizzlies still aren't good, but he puts a name to them, and at least they got a starter representing them like Ja Morant. As a Knicks fan, I think Obi Toppin should be in there, and R.J. Barrett, who's killing it. R.J. Barrett's a good one, too. So, we'll see what happens. That's this episode of The Hot Seat. I'm your host, Matt Diggs. See you next week, everybody.